Welcome to the first episode of Mythic Drafting, where today is part 1 of our 10-part series of how to draft each of the 10 colour pairs in the March of the Machine set. This video is designed to help you with pre-release as well as your first drafts on Arena, Magic the Gathering Online and in real life. So if you like this type of content and want to see more drafts of this when the set's released, please make sure to give the video a like and a subscribe. We start off looking at blue-black with the signpost uncommons. This is where I typically like to look for each colour pair to see what the set wants this colour pair to be doing in draft. And here we have the flip card, which is one of the new types of cards in this set, battles. Effectively, you get the first half of the card, Invasion of Amonkhet, and it comes down as a normal spell that has an effect, and then you assign it to your opponent and they defend the battle. Each battle has a number of counters on it equal to how much damage you have to deal with it in order to flip the battle and cast the other side. So with this card, Invasion of Amonkhet, when it comes into the battlefield, each player mills 3 cards and then your opponent discards a card and you draw a card. This is a pretty mediocre effect in the current limited formats, which tend to be quite quick. However, it is overall powerful in that they are down a card, you are up a card, and you've filled both of your graveyards with 3 cards, which, as we'll see in blue-black, is quite relevant. And then if you do manage to deal 4 damage to this battle, it flips over and you cast Lazotep Convert, which is a 4/4 zombie, which enters the battlefield as a copy of any creature in a graveyard, except it's a 4/4 black zombie in addition to its other types. So you can see here how this is already indicating that blue-black wants to have creatures and other cards in the graveyards so that it can reap the benefits of its other cards. And this card is quite strong in that if you do manage to get it, you get the best enter the battlefield ability or other abilities of a creature all on a 4/4 body. The other blue-black uncommon in draft is Halo Forager, which is 1 blue and a black for a 3/1 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield you may pay X. When you do, you can cast an instant or sorcery with mana value X from a graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would then be put into a graveyard, exiled instead. So this is the other half of the graveyard ability. The battle card for blue-black is going to care about creatures, whereas Halo Forager is going to care about spells, which already indicate that blue-black is going to want to have both in its graveyard. Both of these uncommons are quite strong. I think Invasion of Amonkhet is definitely playable if you have enough flyers and you can slow the game down, and Halo Forager is just a great rated card. In the early game it can be an aggressive 3/1 flyer, and in the late game it's going to be a relevant creature which can cast your best removal spell. And this brings us to the powerful uncommons, and this is a theme in blue-black in that I don't think they have particularly powerful uncommons that are only relevant to that archetype. Most of the other decks with blue or black are going to want the uncommons that blue-black has. And this means that you're probably not going to get late blue or black uncommons that are really powerful in your deck but aren't powerful in other decks. So here are 2 of the more powerful uncommons that sort of manage to fit blue-black. The first one is Invasion of Ulgrotha, which is 4 and a black for a battle, and when it enters the battlefield it deals 3 damage to any other target and you gain 3 life. So this is an overcosted removal spell. However, if you can deal 5 damage to the battle, it flips over into a 3/3 flyer, which has whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you put a 1/1 counter on it and you gain 1 life. Now, if the game is slow enough, you can use this and you can flip this card. It's quite a powerful creature and you're effectively getting a 2-for-1 out of it if you manage to put the effort in. And additionally, it's going to gain you enough life to potentially stabilize after you've taken out your opponent's medium creature. The other one is Invasion of Kamigawa, which is 3 and a blue for a siege battle. When it enters the battlefield, tap target artifact or creature an opponent controls, and then you put a stun counter on it. Now, a stun counter is if a permanent with a stun counter would become untapped, you remove 1 from it instead, and it doesn't untap. Now, if you can deal 4 damage to this, it flips into a 2/3 flyer, which whenever it deals combat damage to a player or a battle, you draw a card. Invasion of Kamigawa is quite strong if you have a more aggressive deck, because if you've been able to play a 2 and a 3 drop, you can then play Invasion of Kamigawa to tap down your opponent's defender and attack into the battle, and you may be able to flip it the turn that you play it. The same is true for Invasion of a Growther, where if you have the ability to have creatures and clear that blocker, you might be able to flip both of them on the same turn, which makes them one of the more powerful battles in this respect. However, if you don't have the creatures in your more of a spells build, it's going to be really difficult to play these cards and flip them. So you need to be thinking about how many creatures you have in your deck, whether you're more of a slow controlling build or whether more of a fast blue-black tempo build as to whether you're going to want these cards. The next battle for blue is Invasion of Vryn, which is definitely weaker than the other two battles. However, it has the potential to have strong upside if you can potentially flip it at a later stage. It's 3 and a blue for Sift, which is when Invasion of Vryn enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards and then you discard a card. So you're getting 3 cards out of it, and then you're putting one of your cards, your worst card, into the graveyard, which is relevant for some other cards coming up. And then if you can deal 4 damage to this, you get an artifact, Overloaded Majoring, which is 1 and tap it to sacrifice it and copy target spell you control. If you copy a target creature spell or any other permanent, then that spell copy will become a token. Now this card certainly doesn't go into every deck, and some decks will be happy playing it just for the front side of it. And if you do manage to flip it, then it can become effectively 1 mana to copy your best spell in your hand, which is quite a powerful ability. However, again, as we said before, if the format is fast, it's going to be difficult to play this card and then on turn 4 and not take enough damage. So you need to be careful and ensure your defenses are set up early or that you can flip it immediately. The next one are 2 of the new flip cards, which are creatures which come down on the front side, and then you can pay a certain amount of mana and a Phyrexian mana to flip it over into the other side. Now here I've listed 2 of the blue and black versions of this card that don't have the other color pair mana symbol. Instead, they have white and green mana respectively. However, I think that you're going to want to play both of these uncommons in your blue-black control decks, and you'll see why. The Nezumi Freewheeler is 3 and a black for a menace, 3/3, and when it enters the battlefield, each player mills 3 cards. So it's putting cards into your graveyard, and it's just an effectively costed creature. And then if you're in blue-black, or you manage to have some extra source of white, you're going to be able to either pay life and 5 mana, or a white mana and 5 mana to transform it into the Hideous Flesh Wheeler, which is a 4/5 menace creature, and when this creature transforms into it, put target permanent with mana value 2 or less from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Now this is filling both graveyards for you, and it is then also going to get a 2 mana creature or other permanent back onto the battlefield when you manage to flip it on turn 5 or at a later stage. This is a powerful creature, and you're going to want to put this in all of your blue-black decks, even if you don't have access to white mana. The same is true for Skyclave Aerialist, which is 1 and a blue for a 2/1 flyer. And then you can pay 4 and then a green Phyrexian mana, so green mana or 2 life, to transform it, and you can only activate this as a sorcery. And it transforms into a flying 2/4. And when it transforms into it, you look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you can put it onto the battlefield, and if you don't put it onto the battlefield, you may put it into your hand. This is Coiling Oracle, which is a very, very strong card, and the fact that it has 1 and a blue for a 2/1 flyer, and in the early game could be used to beat down, and then later on, when you no longer can get through because the opposition has better flyers, you can transform it to effectively draw a card and have a 2/4 flyer to gum up the board. Now, blue-black seems to me to be more of a slower deck designed around control. And I think that there's a little bit of a control package that's possible in this deck, and it's centered around the card Halo Charge Scarb, which is 4 and a blue for a 4/4 zombie. And when it enters the battlefield, each player mills 2 cards. And then you can put an instant, sorcery, or a battle card from your graveyard on top of your library. Now this is really useful with some of the powerful spells in blue-black and the battles that we went through before. This is even more so with the Halo Forager, which is shown behind the Halo Charge Scab, which is the 3/1 flyer that you can pay X to flashback a spell basically. Now this goes really well with the 3 cards I've listed here. The first one being Merciless Repurposing, which is 4 black for an instant where you exile target creature and then you incubate 3. Now incubate is create an incubated token with 3 +1/+1 counters on it, and it has 2, transform this artifact, and it transforms into a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature. So effectively here, you're paying 6 mana to exile one of their creatures. And then the next turn, or the same turn if you have 8 mana, you can pay 2, you can get a 3/3 artifact creature. This is effectively a 2-for-1, and while it is slow, it's going to be really powerful in some games. The next card is Artistic Refusal, which is 4 blue with Convoke, which is you can use your creatures and tap them to pay for 1 mana or 1 mana of that creature's color for the spell. So effectively, if you have 3 creatures on the board, you can tap them all, and this will only cost 3 mana. The effect of this is choose one or both, counter target spell, and then draw 2 cards, and then discard a card. So effectively in the late game or the mid game, depending on how many creatures you have, you're going to be able to counter one of their spells and then draw 2 and discard a card. This will get you up 1 additional card, but also gives you card selection. The final one of these is a common, which is Deadly Derision, which is destroy target creature or planeswalker and create a treasure token for 2 black at instant speed. This is just an efficiently costed removal spell, which is going to help you have more powerful turns in the next turn because you're going to have access to more mana. It's also going to help you potentially splash and take out their best creature. Now, Halo Charge Scarb and the Halo Forager can both recur these powerful spells, which means that you don't need to have multiple of them in your deck. This is important because in deck building, you're not going to want to have 3 or 4 Merciless Repurposing or Artistic Refusal. You likely will play them with the Deadly Derision, but for the more powerful versions of these spells, you're only going to want 1 or 2 maximum to ensure your curve is not too high. The Halo Charge Scarb and Halo Forager allow you to have creatures that give you the flexibility to recast these spells, some of the best spells in your deck, at a later stage in the game once you've already played them, while both being effectively costed creatures themselves. Now, in a similar aspect to the blue-black uncommons, the blue-black commons don't get that much more upside by being in a blue-black control deck. However, there are a few cards that seem to fit into blue-black control a little bit better than anywhere else. The first of them is Nezumi Informant, which is 1 black for a 1/1 rat rogue. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. This card will likely go into every black deck, but it's a little bit better in blue-black because, as we've seen before, there are spells that care about what are in your opponent's graveyards. So if they have put a creature or a spell in your opponent's graveyard, you might be able to access it later with some of your other spells. This is just a great common card, and you should be taking it quite highly in most of your drafts, and is a good way to get into black if you see it floating around 4th, 5th, or 6th pick in the first pack. The second card is Flitting Gorilla, which is 2 black for a 2/2 fairy rogue with flying, and when it dies, each player mills 2 cards. Then you may exile it, and when you do, you put target creature or battle card from your graveyard on top of your library. This is similar to the Scarb from before in that it's going to allow you to recur some of your best creatures, and it's a slightly under-efficient creature in current formats as a Windrake. However, with this upside in blue-black and the fact that it's filling your graveyard, it probably has its only home in this deck. The next card is Disturbing Conversion, which is 1 blue for a flash enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield again, you mill 2 cards, and then the enchanted creature gets -X/-0, where X is the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. This is just going to be an efficient removal spell which pins down opposition creatures, turns them into just blockers, which allows you to play the long game that blue-black wants to by recurring spells, gaining card advantage, and just overcoming your opponent by sheer weight of value. The next card is Tenured Oilcaster, which is 3 black for a menace 2/4 Phyrexian wizard, and then Tenured Oilcaster gets +3/+0 as long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, and whenever it attacks or blocks, each player mills a card. This is one of the more payoff cards. So the previous cards were milling cards into your opponent's graveyard and making them discard cards, and if you've managed to get to the point where they have 8, then all of a sudden this is a 5/4 menace for 4 mana, which is an extremely efficient creature and is going to be a great threat to end the game at the late stage of the game. It also has the upside that it can help in turning itself on by whenever it attacks or blocks, each player mills a card. Now this will disincentivize opponents from attacking into you with 2 3/3s, as you can block one of them and mill a card, and it's just going to help fill up the graveyard to make sure that it can get to the point where it's a 5/4 for 4 mana. And I think this is probably one of the great examples of a card that isn't going to go into black-white or black-red or black-green, and probably just has a home in blue-black, and you could probably pick this card up on the wheel and focus on taking some of the more powerful cards earlier and still getting a couple of copies for this in your deck. Now, what is the reason that you want to play blue-black or that you get into blue-black? It's for some of the amazing rares. The first one of which being Rona, Herald of Invasion, which is 1 and a blue for a 1/3 legendary human wizard. And whenever you cast a legendary spell, untap Rona, Herald of Invasion, and then it has tap to draw a card, then discard a card. It's then 5 and a Phyrexian mana to transform it, and you can activate that only as a sorcery. And it transforms into Rona Talarian Obliterator, which is a 5/5 Phyrexian legendary wizard with trample. And whenever a source deals damage to it, that source's controller exiles a card from their hand at random. And if it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield under your control. Otherwise, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. This is an amazing rare, and I think it's a slam dunk first pick over most of the uncommons and commons in the set. There are sometimes multiple rares in packs, so there may be other rares that you take over this. However, the beauty of this card is that it helps you in the early game by sorting through your cards and giving you card selection. And there are a lot of legendary creatures in this set which may allow you to loot twice in a turn. It's also a 1/3 blocker which will help gum up the board in the early game. And then if you can make it to turn 5, which you should be able to in most games, it's going to turn into a 5/5 trampler that is extremely hard for them to block, because for each source that deals damage to it, you're going to effectively get one of the cards from their hand and put it onto your side of the battlefield. Rona is just a slam dunk first pick, an amazing card, and unfortunately, because of the fact that you can pay Phyrexian mana, nearly every blue deck will want it. It's slightly better in blue-black, but not by much, and if you can get it and play it in blue-black, that's great. The card that is really only for blue-black and may be splashable is Hidetsugu and Kairi, which is a 2 blue-blue black for a 5/4 flying legendary ogre demon dragon. When it enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. And then when it dies, you exile the top card of your library, and target opponent loses life equal to its mana value. Then if it's an instant or sorcery card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Now, this card has a whole lot of text, but it's simply just full of value. If it was just a flying 5/4 for 5, that would probably be okay, and you would play that in most decks. And then the fact that when it enters the battlefield, you effectively get to brainstorm. So you draw 3 cards and you get to card select is amazing. If you have shuffle effects, you can shuffle away cards in your hand that you don't want and take the best 3 cards that you draw. However, you can also stack your deck so that you put an instant or sorcery card on top so that you can later cast it for free. So what you could do theoretically is play this, draw 3, put an instant or sorcery on top. Your opponent attacks, you block with it, and then it might die, you trade it for a creature, and then you get to cast an instant or sorcery without paying its mana cost all on the same turn. This is just another is an amazing reason to be in blue-black, and is certainly splashable as well. However, if it's opened in pack 3, and you're the only blue-black drafter at the table, it's probably likely that this one's getting to you. The next card is another blue card that is great in most blue decks, but is really, really at home in blue-black, and that's Sea Double. For 2 blue-blue instant, the spell can't be copied, and you choose one. But if you have an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, you may choose both. Now the options are to copy target spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. And then the other option is create a token that it's a copy of target creature. So this is efficient on both sides and is clone. So you can just copy a creature and make a copy of that for 4 mana, which is fine. But then if you manage to mill your opponent to 8 cards, then you play this in response to a removal spell. You get to copy their removal spell and take out one of their creatures, and then you get to make a token of the best creature on the battlefield. This is an amazing effect and is going to swing games and is really, really good in blue-black while being good in most blue decks. But really, if you can mill cards into your opponent's graveyard, it's going to be an A. The overall game plan of blue-black really at the end of the day is that graveyards matter, and 8 cards especially matters. This is the threshold to turn on a lot of the best spells, and to make your creatures more efficient, and to give you the payoff for going to blue-black and doing all the milling in the first place. There's also a minor spells matter theme here, with some of the cards caring about spells and some of the cards enabling you to recur spells. So you've got some really powerful rare instants or sorceries, or some of the uncommons that we went over before. Blue-black may be a home in which you can enable the maximum value from those cards. It certainly seems to me as well that it looks like it will lend itself to a control deck. I'm sure, as we discussed before with some of those battles, that there are some more aggressive blue-black decks that want to get some creatures down, play one of the battles to take out that creature or tap it down, and then destroy the battle and get the other side of it, and then out-tempo your opponent. However, I think that with the strong removal spells, some of the better blockers, and some of the better value cards, it really lends itself to a deck that wants to play a long game, wants to control, take out your opponent's creatures, and then play your amazing bombs. And this means I think that this deck really has the potential to splash. There are common tap lands in this set, and there's also Skittering Surveyor, which is a 3-mana artifact, which when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card and put it into your hand, and it's also a 1/2 artifact creature. This card is just fantastic and is way, way better than it looks, but what it will allow you to do is on turn 3, you can basically go and get your 1 or 2 of splash land and put it into your hand. There are also common creatures with land cycling in each of it. So for example, you could play a Skittering Surveyor, 1 plains, and then the white plane cycling common creature, and that will allow you to have 3 sources while only putting 1 land into your deck, and that will help you fix and allow you to splash cards later. So if you're in blue-black and you see a few Skittering Surveyors going around, you may want to pick them up and then keep yourself open to taking some of the powerful cards that are open in later packs that you might be able to splash. The only downside I think to blue-black, and something to be aware of going in, is that it appears less focused than other decks. For example, the green-red battle deck has a real slant to it that you want to be aggressive and you want to be taking out battles. And the blue-white deck, for example, has a clear Knight's focus, and almost every single creature card you want to put into your deck is either going to be a bomb or a knight, and is really, really focused. It may be that blue-black just doesn't have the oomph that is created by those focused decks and the payoff for being focused, so something to keep in mind. However, the powerful spells in it, and if you are playing that late game grindy control deck, may be enough to make up for it. That's it for blue-black in this preseason video. If you enjoyed the video again, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe, and check out our other videos on the 9 other color pairs in draft in March of the Machine. Thank you.